Minister for Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has ordered the immediate replacement of outdated equipment in the power sector as a decisive move to tackle the persistent issue of national grid failures. Adelabu has directed the Transmission Company of Nigeria and other agencies within the ministry to implement recommendations from an interagency committee established to address these frequent grid collapses. The minister assured the public that these equipment upgrades will be completed within the next 6 months. This directive comes as TCN reported a recent grid disturbance at 11:29 a.m. on Thursday, 7th November 2024, attributed to a sharp frequency rise from 50 to 50.33 Hz to 51.44 Hz. In the meantime, the Transmission Company of Nigeria has attributed Thursday's national grid collapse to ongoing repair efforts in the power sector. Now, in a statement, TCN spokesperson Ndidi Mba explained that the grid disturbance occurred around 11:29 a.m. triggered by a sudden rise in frequency from 50.33 Hz to 51.44 Hz. While assuring the public of continued efforts to improve the grid stability, Mba noted that some level of instability may continue until major repair work across the power sector is fully completed. Still on power issue, the Lagos state government has called for proposals from independent power producers and energy solution providers to construct gas-fired power plants aimed at addressing the state's ongoing electricity shortfall. The initiative, led by the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources in collaboration with the Office of Public-Private Partnerships, is part of efforts to improve power supply through clean Lagos electricity markets. In a joint statement, Biodun Ogunleye, Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, and Bukola Odo, Special Advisor on Public-Private Partnerships, highlighted the urgent need for reliable energy solutions in Lagos, a city of over 20 million residents. Officials said Lagos currently demands over 6 gigawatts of electricity, but receives less than 2 gigawatts from the national grid during peak times, underscoring the necessity of this initiative to meet the city's growing power needs. Away from that, organizers of the End Bad Governance protest held in August across several states nationwide are staging a peaceful march in Ikeja, Lagos. Now, the group is calling for the release of its members who remain detained and are currently on trial. They argue that those detained should not face harsh penalties for participating in the August protest, which was a response to rising hunger and hardship. Now to security matters. Nigeria's defense headquarters has announced the existence of a new terrorist sect in the northwestern part of the country known as Lakarawas. Now, the director of Nigeria's defense media operations, Major General Edward Buba, while accusing residents of some of the states in the region of embracing the group, says that they refuse to report the activities of the terrorists. General Buba, however, assured citizens that operations are currently ongoing to dislodge them from the country. News Central's Amadine Uyi reports.
The briefing was supposed to update citizens of the ongoing operations against terrorist groups and criminal elements across the country. However, it came as a shock to those present as the director of the Defense Media Operations announced that the military had identified the existence of a new terrorist group in the northwestern region of the country.
Troops are confronted with a new terrorist sect in the northwest. This sect is known as Lakurawa. The Lakurawas are affiliated to terrorists from the Sahel, particularly from Mali and Niger republics. They began incursion into northwestern part of Nigeria, namely Sokoto and Kebbi states. And like I mentioned, they came in from Niger and the Mali axis.
He accused residents in the area of embracing the group, but assured that the military is already working round the clock to dislodge them from the country.
When they came in, did the people see them? They saw them. What did they do? They embraced them rather than report them. And what has that resulted to? The people saw them as friends. The same friends they thought were friends have turned to foes. And we did not get this report on time until we started creating some havoc. We are on top of that situation. We have sustained our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and accordingly carried out air interdiction, ground offensives to degrade these terrorists, find them, flush them, until we finally defeat them, the same way we have defeated terrorist groups in the northeastern part of this country.
The director urged citizens to be security conscious and partner with the military, especially in the area of intelligence sharing. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And let's also tell you about the genesis of terror groups in Nigeria led by Muhammad Marwa, also known as Maitetsene. This radical religious group emerged in Kano with anti-establishment ideologies sparking deadly riots in the 1980s. Now, following Nigeria's return to democracy, some northern states adopted Sharia law, leading to increased religious polarization and fueling extremist sentiments. Founded by Muhammad Yusuf, Boko Haram emerged in Maiduguri, promoting a hard-line Islamic ideology and opposing Western influences in education and governance. Abubakar Shekau took leadership of Boko Haram, escalating violence and targeting civilians, government and institutions and schools in a campaign of terror. A splinter group from Boko Haram, Ansaru, adopted a more global terrorist approach, aligning with Al-Qaeda and targeting foreigners in Nigeria. Now, criminal groups initially focused on kidnapping and cattle rustling began to adopt terror tactics, blending crime with political violence, especially in the Northwest. It is believed that some of their commanders were once Boko Haram members. Now, the Rural Community Development Outreach has called for the thorough investigation of lawmakers, Shehu Buba, over allegations of sponsoring some terrorist groups. This followed criticisms of the Bauchi state lawmaker by the governor, who accused him of registering a suspected bandit for the intending pilgrim program. They had sent a petition to the United States Consulate General describing the action as a national security threat and calling for an immediate review and action against the lawmaker.
Terrorism is not just a security issue. It is a threat to the very fabric of rural life, disrupting agriculture.
The Federal Capital Territory Police Command has arrested 23 persons suspected of being involved in various crimes engaging from one chance, armed robbery and car theft. The FCT Commissioner of Police, during a press conference in Abuja, says a total of 23 exhibits, including 13 vehicles, were recovered from the suspects. News Central's Idong Joseph reports.
Among those paraded includes 32-year-old Aji from Goza in Borno State, 40-year-old Amobi from Agu in Enugu State, and 26-year-old Amechi from Imo State. All three suspects were arrested for their alleged involvement in armed robbery and car snatching. The police says that two members of the gang, allegedly led by Wanchi Debere, who is currently at large, are ex-convicts and have been under the command's surveillance.
This particular gang operates within the Federal Capital Territory, Nasarawa, Kaduna, and Kano states. Their mode of operation includes following suspects to areas that are very, very conducive for them, where they will strike and depossess them of their vehicles.
In a surprising twist, one suspect denied involvement in any crime, while another claims that he was unaware that the vehicle he was given by Chidebere to sell was stolen.
I was going to my sister's place at Karimo, so it was around 11, around 10 to 11. So as I was going, I saw some vigilante men pursuing somebody. So at the end, they joined me that I know who is, they are calling Chidebere, that I came with Chidebere. I told them I don't know who is Chidebere.
Chidebere give me car to sell the car. So he won't sell the car, call the buyer. As we call the buyer, we come price the motor. So we call him to come make him come bring the papers. The papers no there.
Additionally, 12 members of a one-chance syndicate gang specialized in robbing unsuspecting passengers of their belongings were arrested. Several vehicles were also recovered from the gang.
These one-chance operators were all arrested with knives, with which they must have been stabbing members of the public before collecting their phones and before collecting their monies from them.
Upon questioning, some suspects admit to their crime, but claims that they have turned a new leaf.
We saw some DSS, some Yahoo boys inside vehicle, then we stopped them. We asked them to come outside. So when they came outside, now we said, are you Yahoo boys? They accept. So they said, sir, we don't want to go to the office. Let's just settle here and everybody go his ways apart.
The police have called on citizens who have had their cars stolen to visit the commands to ascertain if they are among the batch of recovered vehicles. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, ahead of the upcoming COP29 Climate Change Summit in Baku, Azerbaijan, Nigeria's government has been tasked to present a united voice at the upcoming summit so as to mobilize the international summit for the national climate action plans. While stakeholders say much has not been done in the areas of birthing effective policies that will ensure all citizens, including women and persons with disabilities, are carried along in the nation's climate action plans, they, however, express optimism that much can still be achieved. News Central's Amadine Uyi reports.
With many nations, especially developed countries within the African continent, looking forward to the upcoming COP29 climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan. Preparations are underway by several groups in Nigeria to ensure effective participation and representation of the country. At this session organized by the Global Initiative for Food Security and Ecosystem Preservation, stakeholders' presently efforts are ongoing to mobilize a united voice that will present a common front to the international community on the challenges being witnessed in the country.
We want to bring together, mobilize our voice, mobilize the different messages from every corner of the country so that we could present this to the representatives, those that are going to the COP29 in Baku, in Azerbaijan, so that we can inform the globe, particularly the Western world, because these are the people that are, or the countries that are emitting so much of the carbon challenges that we're talking about here.
Adolescent students had an opportunity to present their thoughts on the impact of climate change worldwide. Also, some members of the Nasarawa and Adamawa State Houses of Assembly gave updates on efforts by their parliaments to ensure climate action is taken as a priority by their state governments via legislation.
The Assembly have passed the first reading, is awaiting the second reading and other legislative processes. So that is the level, the status of the bill at the moment.
The bill I sponsored, of which it has passed from the State Assembly and waiting for assent, and waiting for governor's assent, we are looking at a way to bring out a policy, a long-term plan that when implemented will address the issue of climate change within our state, and also to bring all stakeholders involved in addressing the issue of climate change.
A disability rights advocate present also gave updates on how current government policies supporting effective action affect the disability community in Nigeria.
One of the biggest challenges that women and girls with disabilities is institutional barrier. The legal frameworks we have, our issues are not captured in terms of disaster risk management, flooding, earthquake, and other climate crisis.
The high point of the event was the presentation of awards to deserving journalism stories bordering on climate change affecting citizens. News Central's Bettina Nwili took the first runner position in the audio-visual category. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadou Uyi.
The Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has emphasized the need for comprehensive data on internally displaced persons in Nigeria, as well as those in neighboring countries who have been left homeless by natural disasters. He made this appeal during a meeting with the Federal Commissioner for the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and IDPs, Tijani Ahmed, in Abuja on Wednesday. In a statement released by his Chief Press Secretary, Levinus Nwabujiogu, the Deputy Speaker highlighted the significant impact of natural disasters such as flooding and erosion in contributing to displacements across the region. He also called for an increase in the Commission's annual budget allocation, stressing that adequate funding is essential for the Commission to effectively fulfill its mandate. Let's also tell you that a new report by Kader Harmonize, led by the federal government and supported by partners including the United Nations World Food Programme, has raised alarms about worsening food security in Nigeria. Now, the report projects that approximately 33.1 million people could face severe food insecurity between June and August 2025. This rise, driven by economic hardship, record high inflation, climate change, and violence in the northeast, represents an additional 7 million people compared to the same period last year. Between October and December 2024, around 25.1 million Nigerians are expected to struggle with food insecurity even during the peak harvest season. Of this figure, 3.8 million reside in the northeastern states, with that number anticipated to increase to 5 million by 2025, a concerning 80% surge. Now, several children with special needs, including those with Down syndrome, resident in Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria, are receiving psychosocial and mental health therapy to help them develop self-dependent skills. This initiative, which is being organized by the Friends Advocacy Mental Health Initiative in the state capital, aims to help the children harness their potentials through creative activities like artistic painting. News Central's Idong Joseph has more on this.
Nahima has lived with Down syndrome since infancy. Her sister Samira Bello has tirelessly sought treatment and done everything possible to ensure that Nahima can play and interact with her peers. Unfortunately, it has not been easy for her. While searching for relief for Nahima, she discovered that Nahima has special abilities in arts, painting and stitching. Though this progress has not come easy, through resilience and continuous coaching, Nahima has made significant strides.
Any other activity, day-to-day activity, like going to school, going to Islamia, we try to take her. Any other extracurricular activity, like whenever there's a program going on, we try to include her. She's really getting better in everything. She's becoming, her speech is becoming clearer. So, and with little training, day-to-day training, she's also becoming better.
Children with Down syndrome may experience delayed language development, use few words, and encounter various mental and emotional challenges. Due to these difficulties, it often becomes hard for them to integrate into society, highlighting the need for social events that will enable them to relate with their peers.
Society usually often separate them or tend to ignore them because of the nature of their special needs. What we are trying to do is to bring these children together. If you look, you can see there are children with special needs, there are children that are the so-called normal children. We bring these children together to work together to explore the act we are carrying out so that they can understand that they are not any different from any child.
We are also trying to help schools to understand that exploring non-conventional means of learning like art, like coloring, different kind of things can also help them achieve their academic goals for children, not just children with special abilities.
Creating a safe space like this offers children with special needs the opportunity to build their self-esteem and develop coping skills. Experts believe that children like Nehima will maintain optimism for a future where they can realize their potential.
Thank you, Dong Joseph, for that report. Now, the increasing cases of sexual and gender-based violence continue to dominate discussions in Nigeria, with the demand for justice getting louder. The disturbing cases of SGBV are becoming worrisome, hence the need for all stakeholders to intensify efforts to address the long-standing systemic abuse and violations affecting women and girls. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on the news. Well, right now we'll be going back to the End Bad Governance protests and how activists are staging a peaceful march demanding the release of detainees. And right here in the studio to talk more on the demands of the protesters, we're joined by Hassan Taiwo, a committee member of the End Bad Governance movement in Lagos. Hello, Hassan. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio. All right, so let's begin by you telling us the number of protesters that are detained at the moment and also what their legal status is.
Well, there are so many. It's difficult to put a figure to it. We have 11 who are standing trial in Abuja at the Federal High Court. That is Adaramoye Makeleni and 10 others. We have some in Katsina. We have 19, for instance, in Borno State, who were arraigned on Monday, 4th of November. And among the 19, are 13 minors. Something which is to show that the reprieve we saw just recently, that the government granted the warrants 19. It's not enough. It's not all encompassing. There are still children who are still locked up, and there are still peaceful protesters who are still locked up, who are still undergoing trial. This morning, you had the case of the 11 come up, but unfortunately, the trial judge was not on seat. But if he had been on seat today, their trial for treason would have commenced, something which shows that the government is actually ready to go ahead with trying peaceful protesters for treason. And we think it's completely unacceptable.
All right, so talk to us about their legal status. And you talked about, some of the protesters that are detained being minors. Where exactly are these minors being detained? What particular states?
In Borno State. I can't remember the name of the prison, but they appeared before.
And they're different from the ones that were
completely different.
That were released.
Completely different. In fact, they were arraigned while the outrage around those who were released was going on. That was on the Monday that they were arraigned. And up to now, neither the state government nor the federal government said anything about that. So one something which shows that we still have a serious problem in that regard. The adults are still also in prison, because we have to be very clear that the case of the children obviously is very bad, it's embarrassing, but the case of the adults is also equally very embarrassing. Because what is happening now is that you have peaceful protesters that the state does not have any shred of evidence against to show that they actually committed a crime, being tried for treason. According to Nigeria's law, treason carries the death penalty. So, and when you look at the proof,
that can be appealed as well.
It can be appealed, but the mere fact that you are even trying peaceful protesters on those calls is very, very embarrassing. And when you look at the charge sheet, what does the state have as evidence against these people? They are saying that they saw in their hands 2 prepaid meters, aluminum pipes, they saw in their hands books and placards. They carry placards bearing End Bad Governance. Those are the evidence supporting the allegations that they want to topple the Nigeria's government. We think that this is an embarrassment for Nigeria and for the court.
All right, so have you been able to, speak to any government representative since the August protests? And, what are they saying about the whole thing?
Well, personally, I've not had that chance, but our lawyers have been having communications with them. Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, was also the lawyer to the 119 who were released on a Tuesday, and he did make a passionate appeal right there in the open court on Tuesday to the Attorney General of the Federation on behalf of the rest of the protesters. And also this earlier today, we met with the acting chief registrar, to the chief judge, assistant chief registrar, to the chief judge of Lagos State, to whom we submitted a petition earlier today. And he also had interactions with us saying that he's going to escalate our letters to the CJ and to the Chief Justice of Nigeria. So far, those are the limited interactions that we have had. But what is very clear is that, whether at the level of the federal or the state, government is not able to fully justify what they are doing because it's completely wrong, both in the eyes of the law and the eyes of the people. Because the civilian rule we are talking about today in Nigeria, its foundation was laid through protest and struggle. So 24 years after, to then have people who protested peacefully against hunger and hardship now being tried for treason, it's completely unacceptable. It's outrageous, completely.
Okay. Now, the reports that you were planning to stage, another protest. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, we are still going to have more protests inevitably because the conditions, of hunger and hardship continues to worsen. In August, we were talking about increment of fuel price, electricity tariff, devaluation of the currency, and the hunger in the land. Between that time and now, all of these things have increased threefold. Fuel price have increased like 3 times. Electricity is not even available. National grid is collapsing almost every three market days. And of course, the condition of hunger is completely excruciating right now. United Nations says that about 25 million Nigerians face, a risk of acute and severe starvation, this year alone. That's to tell you the extent of the hardship we are talking about. And the government is not prepared, has not shown any intent at all to begin to meet any of the demands, which is why it is inevitable that the dam will burst and people will be on the street again. And we are ready to provide leadership and organization when that happens. So yes, we'll continue to mobilize and organize.
Okay, so when is the next one? Because you talked about, is it in a few weeks' time? And what happens if your demand is still not met after this next protest?
Then that means the government will be risking a revolution. That's what it means. Because when people keep organizing and talking and saying, meet our demands, and you don't listen to them, then people will then at a point say, now we got to run the government by ourselves because these people are completely irresponsible. So if the government wants it to get to that state, then it is left to them. So we'll keep on organizing. But then, if government refuses to listen, then at some point, the people may have to decide to push aside the government and not society by themselves. So
you talked about it, being a peaceful protest, planning to organize a peaceful protest. So, but how would you make sure, even ensure that, the demonstration remains peaceful, considering the last one that happened where you had people, who vandalized state resources and properties in some states like Kano and the rest?
To be honest with you, there has been no investigation done yet, to clearly show who did what during the August protest, and that has to be done. Because from our own experience in Lagos, where there was no violence, that was not because there was no attempt by state actors as well as non-state actors to actually commit violence in the course of the protest. But we prevented it from happening. But in other states, you can't tell whether it wasn't even government functionaries who got the Russian flags into the hands of, children to carry on the protest. You can't say that it's not government talk sponsored, who were the ones who committed arson in Kano and whatever. So we need that kind of investigation. But on our own part, what we always do, to ensure that protest goes well, is that we always provide clear leadership. And that's what we continue to do. And we are sure that if we continue to do that, our protests will remain organized. And of course, if the police also refrain, from interfering in our protest and from sending their, agents into our midst, adjunct provocateurs to cause them violence, then protests will not be violent. So I think that we need to say that before we begin to say what happened in the previous protest, there must be a democratic probe of what happened and investigation. Then also to say that security operatives must, operate within the law, within the bounds of the law, and refrain from causing violence or perpetrating violence when the protests are going on. That is very important for us to ensure that our engagement with the government remains organized as it has always been.
All right, well, thank you so much, Hassan Taiwo, for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
And with that, we move on to more stories where we understand that violence has erupted in the Obele community of Emohua local government area in Rivers State, where a member of the OSPAC vigilante group was shot and killed by suspected cultists. Now, reports indicate that 4 other people were shot in what is believed to be a reprisal attack in Omuoke Egbume village in Obele. The spokesperson for the Rivers State Police Command, Grace Iringe Koko, confirmed that the command is aware of the disturbance, though the 4 men who were reportedly shot have yet to report to the authorities. Now, sources say the conflict began after an altercation between Chinanu Eleonu, an OSPAC operative known as Naked, involved in pipeline surveillance, and Chigozie Walker, a former councillor of Port Harcourt Ward 7, along with other community members. Now, away from Nigeria, Chad's President Mohamed Idris Debno Itno has confirmed that the Chadian military recently launched airstrikes targeting Boko Haram positions in the Lake Chad region. Now, according to the president, the strikes resulted in multiple casualties among the insurgents, though no specific numbers were disclosed. Debi said he personally initiated the counterattack following a Boko Haram assault on Chadian forces in the country's western region near the Nigerian border last month. The Chadian government intensified its efforts against Boko Haram at the end of October after the militant group carried out a deadly raid on a military garrison, killing around 40 people and injuring 40 others.
Nous avons lancé par la voie aérienne, nous avons fait plusieurs frappes de positions ennemies. Ils ont eu beaucoup de morts et beaucoup de blessés. Je vais dire que l'armée tchadienne va remporter. Et j'ose croire que l'armée va remporter. Et je prie Dieu le Tout-Puissant pour que notre armée puisse vaincre ces barbares qui tuent des enfants, qui égorgent des enfants. Donc ces gens-là ne méritent pas de pitié. Et Dieu est toujours avec les justes. Et je crois que Dieu va soutenir notre armée. Dieu va être aux côtés des justes. Donc l'armée nationale tchadienne. À chaque fois qu'il y a des problèmes dans ces pays voisins, nous, on déploie nos soldats. On déploie nos enfants pour aller les soutenir. Mais quand notre pays, le Tchad, est frappé par l'ennemi, aucun soutien.
Preparations are in full swing in Botswana for the inauguration of the country's new president, Duma Boko. President-elect Boko, who is also the leader of the Umbrella for Democratic Change, recently triumphed over Mogwetsi Masisi of the Botswana Democratic Party in a decisive election. Now, the ceremony is set to attract heads of state and government from across the Southern African Development Community region. As Boko, takes office, he faces the pressing challenge of revitalizing the economy, which has been plagued by high unemployment and poverty levels. The Nigerian government has announced that it will now trade crude oil and refined petroleum products in naira instead of foreign currency. This major policy change aims to strengthen Nigeria's economic independence and reduce reliance on foreign exchange. At an interactive session, the Senate Committee on Finance, chaired by Senator Mohammed Sani Musa, reviewed the new directive. Musa highlighted the need for transparency in resource management, stressing that trading in naira will encourage local refining and minimize reliance on foreign currency. He also noted that this policy, approved by President Bola Tinubu and the Federal Executive Council, will shape Nigeria's fiscal strategy from 2024 to 2027.
Today we gather to deliberate on the pressing matters related to the sales of crude oil to domestic refineries in Nigeria, in Naira, and its implication on the approved medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for 2024-2026, and what we should expect for 2025-2027. Additionally, we will examine shortfalls in NMPCL revenue remittances, focusing on key areas such as foreign and domestic excess crude accounts, the signature bonus account, NMPCL cash call account, and any outstanding unremitted revenue linked to under recoveries. This meeting underscores our commitment to transparency, accountability, and the responsible management of our national resources. I am confident that with the collaboration of the Ministry of Finance under the able leadership of the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission,
Now in the world of sports, Nigerian striker Victor Usman scored twice as Galatasaray defeated Tottenham 3-2 in Istanbul, topping their Europa League group with 10 points. Yunus Akgün opened the scoring for Galatasaray with a stunning volley, but Tottenham's Will Lancashire equalized shortly after. Usman restored Galatasaray's lead before halftime, scoring twice in quick succession, including a skillful volley of Dries Mertens' cross. Tottenham's comeback hopes dimmed when Lancashire received a red card. Now, although Dominic Solanke managed a late goal for Spurs, Galatasaray maintained their lead comfortably. The result left Spurs in 5th place, ending their unbeaten run in other Europa League matches. Eintracht Frankfurt edged Slavia Prague 1-0, Atletico Bilbao rallied to beat Ludogorets 2-1, and Union Saint-Gilloise held Roma to a 1-1 draw with a late goal by Kevin McAllister. Now, still talking sports, Barbora Krejcikova eliminated Iga Swiatek from the WTA finals on Thursday by defeating Coco Gauff 7-5, 6-4, securing her spot in the semi-finals and ending Swiatek's title defense. Swiatek impressive 6-1, 6-0 win over Daria Kazatkina was not enough, as she needed a Gauff victory over Krejcikova to advance. Krejcikova, the Wimbledon champion, moves on as an Orange Group winner and will face Zheng Qinwen in the semi-finals, while Gauff advances to meet world #1 Ariana Sabalenka. Now, in her win, Krejcikova saved 11 of 12 break points, battling through a 10-minute final game where Gauff saved 2 match points. This is Krejcikova's first WTA Finals semi-final appearance, achieved through a new rule that allowed her entry as a Grand Slam champion. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our top stories. We told you that Power Minister has ordered immediate replacement of outdated equipment to address national grid failures. We also told you that Defense Headquarters has identified existence of new terrorist group, Lakarawa. We also told you that Chadian military has launched airstrikes against Boko Haram, inflicts heavy losses. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.